What's up, y'all? I'm Reed the Fishmonger, and today we're gonna fillet up a beautiful African Pompano. African Pompano is a harder fish to clean for a lot of folks. We're gonna make it easy for you. Like mahi-mahi, African Pompano have a large strip of meat that comes all the way up behind the head. So first thing we're gonna do is find where it's soft behind the head and outline that. That way you don't lose out on any of that delicious meat. That is a premium part of the fish right there. Pick up the pectoral fin, slip our knife right underneath, and slide all the way down. So there's our first two cuts. This ridge right here, you can't even see it on camera, but this is what makes African Pompano so hard to clean. Along the dorsal fin is a large bone that sticks up. So we're not able to slide our knife in and start a flush line with the spine. We'll show you what we'll do instead. You can feel where that ridge ends. It is going to be right here, right at the top of that dorsal fin. So we're gonna enter right there and come all the way towards the head. Make sure your knife is resting right on that skeleton so that way you don't lose any of this delicious African Pompano meat. One little flick right here, and you'll release that chunk of meat from behind the head so that way you can lift it up and get a little bit more play with it. So we essentially got to the center spine of only this portion. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna find that ridge with our finger and go right in front of it and slide all the way up. Now that you've made that line along that ridge and you already have this part cut, we can take our knife with the flex of our blade and slide down. And this is how you lose zero meat on the first side of your African Pompano. Now that you're to the center, use the tip of your knife, go to the top of that center spine, tip of the knife, base of the ribs, angle it slightly up. Make sure your knife is not levitating. You want it pressed along the skeleton just like that. You don't want your blade flat, you want it angled slightly up. That just separated the connection the pin bones make to the ribs. Now you can lift up on this without tearing any of that meat. We're gonna use the tip of our knife and the flex of our blade to hit the second side behind that tall spine. Making sure your knife runs flush with those bones so that way you don't lose any of that delicious African Pompano meat. Then we're gonna circle back around. The rib bones on these African Pompano go all the way up to the skin. So scraping the top of those bones without cutting through is difficult, but this is how you're gonna do it. You want your knife pressing on those bones and sliding down. If you're not pressing onto those bones, they are a little sturdier than a lot of other rib bones, which is helpful, because if you're not adding a little bit of pressure on these ones, you are not gonna get that belly meat on the African Pompano, so you have to push down on these ones. And there we go. We're at the end of those rib bones, so now we can just start making a little incision like that. And we are fully filleted here, but we can't just stick our knife there and separate it because this bone ridge is preventing that. So we're gonna go right in front of that ridge and pull down just like the other side. And that released our entire fillet. And da-da-da-da, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous African Pompano fillet. Flip it over. Same deal. Lots of meat behind the head here. You don't want to lose out on it. You can feel how the bone is right here and where it becomes soft. I don't know if the camera can see it, but if I push down on the meat, you can see the outline of the bone, and that's what we're going to follow along. Then we're going to pick up that pectoral fin and come all the way down just like that. Now we're gonna flip it around. We're gonna make our slight incision right at the top of this fin, just like the other side. And now we're gonna slide up towards the head. On this second side, because it's not laying flat, it's got an angle right here. We wanna get to the skeleton first. That way, we can let that skeleton guide our knife as we go up that slope. One little flick right there, and that will release that finger. Now that we've got This portion fillet just like the other side. We're gonna find that ridge, cut down right in front of it, and slide up. Now we're gonna stick the tip of our knife in, make a little bit more of an incision. Now we have the ability to rest our knife on the skeleton and start filleting like any other fish now that that ridge isn't in our way. Now that we're to the center, tip of the knife, top of the spine, go all the way up. Tip of the knife, base of the ribs, angle it slightly up, separating the connection the pin bones make to the ribs. Now you get all this lift on the fillet without tearing the meat. Tip of the knife, second side of that tall spine. All right, now we're gonna work our way over these ribs. The ribs go super close to the skin, and that skin is paper thin on these African Pompano. Having your body on this side so you can rest your knife on those rib bones as you slide down does help with the process, and it works great when you're doing the second side where it could be a little harder to go around the ribs of your fish. All right, we went over the ribs, got all that belly meat left on the fillet, and we are fully filleted up there. It's just attached by a thin piece of skin over here that we don't want to disconnect this way because we'll lose a thin strip of meat along there that is ducked underneath that ridge. So we're gonna come over here again, find that ridge with your finger, cut right in front of it, and slide on down. And that motion releases your entire fillet. All that's left is to separate the tail and da-da-da-da. Absolutely beautiful African Pompano fillet with all the belly meat left on, no rib bones in that fillet. And you guys can see right here, this is hard as a rock bone. I could push down as hard as I want, and that's not going down. This is a really interesting bone structure that you only see on African Pompano, at least in my experience so far. Here's the tiniest little bit of meat on the second side. African Pompano is also very popular to eat raw. Don't go anywhere, otherwise you'll miss out on some delicious steps. The collars on these African Pompano are absolutely delicious, and this is how you get them off easily. Get a nice, good opening. Tip your knife underneath those gills, slide up underneath the chin. I don't know if the camera can see it, but there's a little outline right here. That is a bone from behind the head resting on top of the collarbone. If you stick your finger under there, you can push, you can really see the outline now. Just like that, sliding right underneath that bone. There's just a little bit of membrane holding onto it. Hit that membrane and this whole thing will pop right out. We're gonna flip it over and repeat the process. Puncture the membrane underneath those gills, slide all the way up underneath the chin, rest your knife right on top of that bone, slide down, and there is the other one detached. Now all that's left to do is just pull it right out, just like that. Look at the fat in that collar. That is absolutely delicious stuff. We're gonna clean them up a little bit, just swipe away a little bit of that membrane. And now you guys are ready to catch and clean your own African Pompano. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope y'all have a killer day.